In the bleachers at Jennifer and Kristina's high school graduation, a vibrant couple, Celeste and Stephen Beard, proudly applaud. But in front of them, the solitary figure of Tracy Tarleton stands out. What the twins don't know is that Tracy, released from a psychiatric institution months earlier, harbors sinister secrets. She plans a crime that will force the twins to flee for their lives. What does the future hold for these talented twins? And what will happen when Tracy's secret is revealed? Get ready for a story filled with excitement and twists. In 1993, Kristina, at the age of 13, lives in Austin, Texas with her mother Celeste and stepfather Stephen. Her twin sister, Jennifer, lives in the state of Washington with her biological father, Craig. The twins' separation came after an intense custody battle between their parents, who had divorced. This distance deeply affected their relationship as they were once inseparable best friends. Learn more about this emotional story in the testimonials that follow.
I missed her a lot. I missed Jen a whole lot. We were built-in friends with each other.
I would not know how to be a regular sibling. You know, it's always been nice to have someone that knows exactly what I'm going through. It was definitely hard not to have my other half.
It's July 1996. After being apart for 3 long years, the twin siblings have finally arranged a summer getaway to meet at their grandparents' residence in California. The excitement is immense as this gathering marks their first reunion in over 2 years.
My sister and I never skipped a beat.
Laughing so hard that we were crying, and I just couldn't believe that we were actually back together again.
However, the situation takes a dark turn when Jennifer tries to contact their father, Craig, to inform him of their safe arrival but receives no response on the phone. They continue to make calls, but to no avail. After 2 days of complete lack of communication, the siblings receive the devastating news of their father's death at his residence, leaving behind a handwritten letter. He had been silently battling for years, leaving his daughters bewildered about the reasons that led him to make this decision.
I felt like I died that day.
The twins find themselves in a state of bewilderment. What was supposed to be just a 2-week reunion has turned into Jennifer making a sudden move to Kristina, Celeste, and their newly acquired stepfather, Stephen Beard's residence in Austin, Texas. Initially, the adjustment was challenging, but when she had the chance to get to know Steve Beard, her new stepfather, she was surprised by the warm welcome and affection he showed, displaying genuine care for his new stepdaughter.
When I first met Steve, it was just so sweet, which was a relief, you know, because he was technically my stepdad. On Sundays, it was really special because Steve and I would always go to breakfast together. I was very grateful to have his relationship.
After years of living together, the new blended family, from an external perspective, seems to be enjoying a happy life. The sisters have just entered their senior year of high school and, for the first time, are enjoying the presence of a stable father figure. Stephen formally adopted the twins, gifting each of them with a special family ring.
He had always wore his.
He just gave it to us after he adopted us, and we thought it was the coolest thing.
I mean, I was definitely moved that he had this special ring made, and I mean, just the adoption alone, you know, I felt pretty connected to him.
However, everything changes on October 2, 1999 at 2:30 in the morning. Jennifer is at her boyfriend's residence, while at Stephen's house, Kristina is peacefully sleeping just like any other night. However, suddenly, the door to Kristina's room swings open.
The lights turn on, and my mom is running through the door saying, "Someone's at the door." And I'm like, what is going on here? I jump out of bed because she's in a panic, and I'm on my way to that front door when I see these white flashing lights.
Kristina is in a state of shock, not knowing who is outside or what the person's intentions are, so she rushes to the phone and dials 911, completely terrified. She informs them that someone is banging on the front door and that sirens are blaring outside with lights flashing around her house. The 911 operator explains to Kristina that the people outside are police officers. Moments earlier, the dispatchers received another 911 call from someone inside the house.
What is going on there?
I'm in bed. I'm in awful pain.
Okay, are you there by yourself?
My wife is somewhere in the house. I can't find her.
Kristina rushes to the front door to let the police officers in.
Open the front door and it's cops. And they're like, "Is your dad home?" And I said, "Yeah, he's upstairs."
Kristina hurriedly makes her way to her stepfather's room, accompanied by the police, while her mother rushes frantically behind them.
The paramedics, they were already working on Steve by the time myself and the police officer got into the room.
This was a man who needed immediate medical attention, and they needed to act quickly if he was going to survive.
The paramedics do their best to stabilize Steve, but he is losing a significant amount of blood. As they rush to transport him to the hospital with the utmost urgency, one of the police officers makes a surprising discovery: a shotgun shell on the floor next to his bed.
I'm like, "What? Are you telling me he was shot?" And they said, "Yes." And I just couldn't believe it.
Kristina calls her sister and tells her what is happening while Steve is being transported by helicopter to the nearest hospital.
Just couldn't believe what he just said. I'm panicked. I'm definitely panicked.
The crime scene is cordoned off as investigators conduct their initial inspection. It appears that someone entered through the unlocked side door and went to Steve's room, firing a fatal shot. However, before delving into their theory, they begin collecting DNA swabs from everything, including all family members who could have been in the house at the time of the crime: Kristina, Jennifer, and their mother, Celeste.
So at that point, I'm shocked that first off, Steve had been shot, but I wouldn't have even thought who could have done it. I was wondering if it was burglar or random, but as soon as we walked out of the house, Celeste whispers to me, "If the police ask you who might have done this, don't mention Tracy's name."
Why would Celeste say don't mention Tracy's name?
Tracy Tarleton. 6 months before the night of the attack, Celeste met Tracy, who was 45 years old. Tracy was the manager of a local bookstore in Austin and had become an intimate friend of Celeste. She was frequently invited to dinners and birthday parties by the twins' mother and even attended their high school graduation ceremony.
They had this weird friendship.
I just remember thinking that this lady wants more from our mom than just a platonic relationship.
The twin sisters head to the hospital, struggling to make sense of the unfolding situation. Bewilderment overtakes them, as their mother had given explicit instructions not to mention Tracy. However, this only serves to heighten their suspicions.
I was thinking maybe she's protecting Tracy because she thought it was Tracy.
After getting to the hospital and talking to the detectives, they asked me, who do I believe shot my father? And I said, my mom doesn't want me to mention this, but I'm not supposed to say Tracy Tarleton.
The investigation focuses on Tracy Tarleton, whose close relationship with the Beard family makes her the prime suspect. However, something seems amiss. With no apparent motive, detectives begin to suspect that someone else might be involved.
There was no reason for Tracy to do this completely on her own.
Authorities swiftly obtained a search warrant for Tracy Tarleton's residence based on compelling evidence: a 20-gauge shotgun shell identical to the bullet that had wounded Stephen Beard. Next, the officers headed to Tracy Tarleton's house and knocked on the front door.
Miss Tarleton was asked if she owned a shotgun. She said yes. I asked if I could see it. She thought for a few minutes and she said, okay, you can see it. She gave us a Franchi 20-gauge shotgun. It had her name inscribed on the weapon itself.
Authorities seize the shotgun and send it for further analysis. Days pass, and everyone eagerly awaits news from the investigators until, finally, the detectives obtain the result.
And that shotgun turns out to be the shotgun from which the bullet that injured Mr. Beard was fired from.
On October 8, 1999, 5 days after the attack on Stephen Beard, Tracy Tarleton is arrested and charged with attempted murder. However, the investigators are not satisfied. Tracy refuses to reveal the reasons behind her actions. and they are aware that there is more to this story than they know so far. The detectives continue to question, believing that Tracy did not act alone, and suspect that there may be another person involved who is still at large, but she remains in complete silence. Meanwhile, Stephen remains hospitalized, and after months of painful struggle with the twins by his side, he succumbs to the injuries from the shooting.
We loved Steve. He never wanted us to worry about anything. He just wanted us to be loved and enjoy our lives.
Coming from Washington State, losing my father, he filled that role for me that I'll never forget.
As the sisters try to cope with their father's death, the pain deepens, and they find themselves faced with an even greater number of questions. Why would someone want to harm him? Their mother, Celeste, does her best to be there and supports the twins in preparing for the funeral and choosing a casket for him. However, the sisters never expected what would happen next.
A lot of crying's going on. We just lost a loved one.
And while we were there, she purchased 2 pink caskets for Jen and I. And she's like, I'm gonna get these for you guys.
The confusing part to me was Celeste suggesting that 18-year-olds needed to pick out a casket. And in the back of my mind, I thought, well, am I going in this casket soon?
Local newspapers and television networks start covering the story, and a growing concern arises that the real killer may still be on the loose. However, without concrete evidence, the investigators find themselves at a standstill. Meanwhile, amidst all of this, the twins notice that their mother's behavior is becoming increasingly disturbing and unpredictable.
We're all crying, and Celeste is just laughing.
She kind of had like these crazy eyes.
Kind of manic, very loud and emotional, but didn't really seem real.
However, circumstances reach a critical point on February 16, 2000, and no one could foresee what fate had in store for the 2 young twins.
She then said, hey, why don't we all kill ourselves?
And all of a sudden, she pulls out a knife.
She's holding it like this, and she goes to like kind of lunge.
She just stabs herself in the leg.
Blood starts gushing everywhere.
I was just like, what is happening?
The twins desperately call 911, pleading for immediate medical attention for their mother. As the ambulance approaches, paramedics rush to begin treating Celeste, struggling to control the bleeding from her leg. The young women are in a state of shock as their mother is quickly loaded into the ambulance and transported to the nearest hospital. In the following weeks, while hospitalized, Celeste continues to reach out to her daughters, becoming increasingly disturbed and unsettling.
And she's yelling and screaming at me over the phone.
Would go from normal to screaming, back to normal.
It was at that moment that Kristina had an inspiration that would later provide the investigators with the evidence necessary to finally uncover the true killer of Steve Beard.
That I thought, hey, you know what? I'm gonna start recording her conversations because I want to play them back to her, and she'll then hear, like, from my perspective, what I'm hearing and think, oh, that's awful. I can't believe I do that.
And you will be sorry.
However, just as Kristina is about to end the recording, Celeste reveals a crucial piece of evidence that will irreversibly change the course of the investigation.
She says, I hired somebody to kill Tracy. I froze. It made it all real, and it made it all unsafe.
The twins are terrified. They begin to realize that the pink caskets their mother purchased, the recurring, strange, and violent outbursts, the suspicious death of their father, and now the murder plot directed at Tracy all point to a terrible conclusion. They might be next on Celeste's list.
Hearing that sealed it for me. Like, any sort of doubt that I ever had that Celeste was involved with our father's murder, I don't have anymore.
And the situation becomes even more critical from this point onwards. Their mother has been released from the hospital, and now the twins find themselves in greater danger than ever. At this moment, Jennifer and Kristina's last hope to survive is to hide and ensure that their mother cannot find them.
I cleared out my bank account for Kristina and I to go on the run and not have any trace. We stayed in motels. Everything we did with cash. Celeste was trying to find us every day, trying to find us. All I kept replaying in my head was we are in danger. It was definitely terrifying. Like, we're not coming home from this.
While Celeste is searching for her daughters, the twins, armed with recorded conversations of the threats made by their mother, approach the police to request a domestic violence protection order, which is promptly granted. However, their suspicions about their mother's involvement in the death of their stepfather can only be confirmed by one person, Tracy Tarleton.
This whole entire time, Tracy was keeping her silence, that she acted in this alone.
Tracy, who was in jail awaiting trial for her involvement in Steve's murder, remained silent until March 2002, when she reads in the newspaper that the twins received a domestic violence protection order against their mother. At this point, she breaks her silence and decides to cooperate with the investigators, revealing to the detectives the truth behind her motive, what they had been waiting to hear since the night of the murder. She didn't act alone in Steve's death. It was actually Celeste's plan all along. Now, with Tracy's crucial testimony and the incriminating audio recordings of the twins, the investigators finally have enough evidence to arrest Celeste for premeditated murder on March 28, 2002. However, Celeste's arrest doesn't guarantee that a jury will find her guilty.
I felt like if she doesn't go to jail, I was going to be living underground forever. And I wasn't going to feel safe until she was in jail. With her on the street, nobody's safe.
The twins begin to collaborate with prosecutors, lawyers, and Tracy Tarleton, the woman who pulled the trigger, with the aim of ensuring that their mother is convicted and never released from prison. On February 3, 2003, Celeste Beard's trial begins. Facing their own mother, the sisters confront the challenge of testifying as witnesses.
I felt like I don't want to be in the same room with her. I was afraid, oh my gosh, how do I stay strong enough to not waver?
Worst thing I've ever had to do in my life is see Celeste staring back at me when I had to sit on the stand and testify to everything that I knew she did. I was conflicted because she's my mom, but I just wanted to make sure that Steve got justice.
The twins reported that throughout their entire lives, their mother had serious mental health issues, which led to violent outbursts and, overall, a traumatizing childhood.
Growing up, her emotions were all over the place. There was a lot of yelling and screaming and nasty phone calls. It seemed normal to us.
Jennifer reveals that when Celeste married Steve Beard, a retired 69-year-old television executive and multimillionaire, it wasn't for love, but to gain access to his substantial inheritance.
Did Kristina ever talk to you about her feelings about Steve Beard?
Well, she said that she married Steve for the money.
Did she tell you about what would happen if Steve Beard died?
That she would get it all. She would say, why wouldn't he die already?
Did it appear that she was looking forward to that, or?
Yes.
Investigators discovered that in just 6 months of marriage, Celeste spent more than $500,000 of her husband's money secretly acquiring clothes, jewelry, and various types of artwork. The twins even noticed that Celeste had put sleeping pills in Steve's food on several occasions, and as soon as he fell asleep, she would sneak out of the house. In February 1999, 8 months before the murder of Stephen Beard, Celeste had a psychotic breakdown, during which she took a gun, pointed it at her own head, and threatened Kristina's life. Due to this incident, she had to be forcibly admitted to St. David's Psychiatric Hospital in Austin, Texas. While in this psychiatric institution, Celeste met Tracy Tarleton. Her mother quickly began to devote a lot of attention to her, spending time with her and eventually developing an intimate relationship. After gaining all this trust, Celeste was now able to put her true plan into practice: manipulate Tracy.
She expressed to me that she wanted the sexual relationship with me, which I also wanted.
Celeste had been setting up Tracy, saying, Steve is abusive to me. He's so horrible. And Tracy believed that Celeste was really in trouble.
Celeste Beard, I don't think ever loved, maybe didn't even like Tracy Tarleton, but she was willing to engage in a lesbian relationship in order to get what she wanted.
I just saw this woman that I love in a desperate situation, trying to find a way to survive this man that was so awful.
Celeste said to Tracy, I cannot live any longer with this abusive husband, but Steve wasn't abusive.
It was at that moment, in front of the twins and the jury, that Tracy described Celeste's plan for her husband's murder.
For her husband.
You know, she says, oh man, he's gonna die soon, but not soon enough. She had a plan, and she wanted me to shoot him with my shotgun. Show me where to enter the grounds, where to park, and then we walk through how I would exit my car, where I would enter the house, how I would approach the bedroom. I walked down to the end of the building, I saw him, and I pulled up and I shot him. Shot him once. I shot him once.
The courtroom falls into a thick silence after the shocking revelation. Celeste watches Tracy in the witness stand with a cold gaze, shaking her head and even letting out occasional laughs. However, her smile fades as her own daughters approach the witness stand. Now it's their turn to present one of the most incriminating pieces of evidence they have: the audio recording of Celeste's murder plot against Tracy, along with her frequent threats to the young women.
On the tapes, she was histrionic. It was difficult to think that any mother would talk to a child that way.
The trial extended for weeks, culminating on March 19, 2003, when, after 3 days of deliberation, the jury finally returns with its verdict. This verdict will determine whether Celeste will remain in prison for her husband's murder or walk free, potentially haunting the twins for the rest of their lives.
Before we bring the jury out, if there is anyone in the courtroom who feels that they may have an emotional outburst, I would ask that you please leave the courtroom at this time. Ms. Johns, would you please stand?
Truly, we've been waiting for this for 3 years now. And so, yeah, it's very emotional, and you can't really know what 12 people that you've never met, what they're going to do.
Madam Foreperson, please read the entire.
State versus Celeste Beard Johnson. Verdict of the jury. Verdict form 1, capital murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Celeste Beard Johnson, guilty of the offense of capital murder.
Well, I had a flood of emotions. You know, I wasn't expecting to get so worked up. She is our mom, and it's just like she's going to jail for the rest of her life.
Finally, the sisters achieved justice for their father's murder. To conclude the trial, Kristina bravely stands up once more, but this time, her purpose is to speak directly to her mother and put an end to the fear that has haunted their lives for over 2 years.
What did I ever do to you except love you? And this is how you treated us, like trash. You say we turned on you, but you turned on us. You turned on the whole Beard family. He let you into his home, loved you, honored, obeyed you, and you violated him and murdered him. You are guilty. Shame on you.
Celeste Beard is sentenced to 2 consecutive 40-year prison terms and will not be eligible for parole until she turns 79. The twins can finally breathe a sigh of relief as they no longer need to hide. They have the freedom to live their lives fully. After the trial's conclusion, Tracy requests a meeting with the twins and directly apologizes for all the suffering she caused them.
I mean, that's not an easy thing to do, is sit in a room with the person that actually pulled the trigger. She said that she felt really guilty for killing our father and that she was really sorry. I remember that.
She thought she was agreeing to kill an evil man. I feel really bad for her. I could really relate with the fact that she was a victim here too.
The twins state that this sincere moment of forgiveness helped them begin the long process of healing. Now, 2 decades after the trial, their bond has only grown stronger.
I have Kristina. Kristina's my strength. We don't live close to each other, but any chance we can get to go visit each other, we will.
The twins are now 42 years old. Jennifer has a fulfilling job and invests time in taking care of her mental health. Meanwhile, Kristina is married and a dedicated mother of 2 children. She takes pride in providing her children with the life, attention, love, and care that she didn't experience during her own childhood.
I'm being the mom that I wanted.
They get to do life like I wish I got to.
Celeste never imagined that her downfall would be caused by her own daughters. Although it took years for Jennifer and Kristina to heal from the wounds inflicted by their mother, they demonstrate that their love for each other is stronger than their mother's hatred. Living their best lives, enjoying quality time with their loving families, they show that the best revenge is moving forward